The Eternal Victory's observation deck sparkled with holographic displays, each one showing fragments of humanity's military history. Supreme Commander Vixthera's primary eyes focused on World War I footage, while their secondary set tracked real-time fleet movements. Their scaled tentacles curled in amusement as they watched ancient Sherman tanks rolling across European fields. Primitive, they muttered, gesturing with a neural command to fast-forward through decades of human warfare. Simply primitive. The holographic displays blurred through Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf Wars, and finally settled on modern-day footage of Earth's latest fighter jets. Fleet analyst Zexry approached with careful deference, their bioluminescent patches dimmed in submission. Supreme Commander, if I may draw your attention to an anomaly in the human advancement rate. Vixthera's tentacles rippled in annoyance. Speak quickly, analyst. I'm composing my preliminary victory speech. Our long-range sensors indicate their technological progression doesn't follow standard evolutionary patterns. They've achieved in centuries what most species require millennia to. Because they're reckless, Vixthera interrupted, commanding their hover throne to rotate toward the massive viewing window. Earth hummed like a blue jewel in the distance, completely unaware of the Dominion fleet hiding behind Saturn's rings. Look at their history, analyst. Every advancement comes from their endless wars. They're like larvae fighting in a nutrient vat, mindlessly tearing at each other. Zexry's secondary breathing vents fluttered nervously. That's precisely my concern, Supreme Commander. Their conflict-driven evolution has produced unexpected. Enough. Vixthera's voice resonated through their bioamplifiers, making the deck plates vibrate. I didn't conquer 17 systems by fretting over primitive anomalies. Begin recording. A hovering camera drone materialized from its changeolionic state, its crystalline lens focusing on the Supreme Commander. Vixthera's scales shifted to their formal ceremonial pattern, deep purples and blues that signified absolute authority in Dominion culture. This is Supreme Commander Vixthera of the Dominion Fleet, beginning preliminary documentation of the Human Pacification Campaign. Local date, March 15, 2157. Our analysis of human military capability is complete, and I can state with absolute certainty that this will be the shortest conquest in Dominion history. The commander gestured, and the holoprojectors displayed Earth's military satellites, primitive weapons platforms that the humans thought were well hidden. Their orbital defenses are laughable. Their most advanced ships still rely on chemical propulsion. Their weapons, Vixthera's feeding tentacles writhed in what passed for laughter in their species. They're still excited about perfecting railguns. Railguns. Technology we abandoned 8 centuries ago. Deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Catherine Morrison watched this transmission with a stony expression. The quantum interceptors had performed perfectly. The aliens had no idea their private recording was being beamed directly to Earth's Unified Defense Command. General Santos, she addressed the hologram floating beside her desk, are the ghost fleets in position. The general's weathered face broke into a slight smile. All ships maintaining quantum silence behind Jupiter's radiation belt. The Dominion sensors are reading exactly what we want them to read. Morrison nodded, her eyes never leaving the alien commander's continuing monologue. On her screen, Vixthera was now gleefully dissecting footage of Earth's latest warships, carefully staged vessels that were little more than hollow shells with primitive engines. Their arrogance is absolutely perfect, Morrison said softly. 3,000 years of human military history, and they think they can understand it through data streams and sensor readings. Should we be concerned that they've accessed so much of our military database? Santos asked. Morrison's laugh was genuine but cold. Everything they've accessed was carefully curated. Sun Tzu said it best, appear weak when you are strong. We've spent 50 years making sure every piece of information they could steal would reinforce their superiority complex. On her secondary screen, Vixthera was outlining their invasion plans to the camera drone, completely confident in their victory. The alien commander had even begun discussing plans for the Victory Monument they would build in Earth's orbit. "Let them plan their monuments," Morrison said, bringing up the classified feeds from Earth's true fleet. Hidden throughout the solar system, 500 ships waited in quantum silence, their crews trained since childhood in combat doctrines drawn from every culture and era of human history. Humans have been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars. We knew we weren't alone, and we knew that one day someone would make exactly this mistake. The alien commander's voice droned on, cataloging humanity's apparent weaknesses with smug satisfaction. Every word confirmed that Earth's greatest deception was working perfectly. For all their advanced technology, the Dominion was about to learn why humans had a saying: "Pride goes before a fall." Witness, Galaxy, the first engagement between Dominion forces and the primitive human fleet. Supreme Commander Vix Thera's voice boomed across 100,000 worlds as their entertainment feed went live. The viewing numbers were astronomical. Species from every corner of known space tuning in to watch humanity's expected downfall. On the main screen, 3 Dominion cruisers approached a small group of Earth vessels near Mars. The human ships were exactly what Vix Thera had expected: bulky, ungraceful craft with obvious chemical propulsion systems. "Observe their tactical formations," Vix Thera narrated, their scales gleaming with smug satisfaction. They bunched together like frightened herd animals. This recording will serve as a perfect instructional tool for junior tactical officers, a lesson in what not to do. The Dominion cruisers opened fire with their lowest-powered weapons, not wanting to end the show too quickly. The human ships scattered in apparent panic, their engines flaring erratically as they tried to evade. In the command center of the retreating Earth vessel Gettysburg, Captain Marcus Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. "Propulsion, make that port engine flutter more dramatically. Weapons, let's have another accidental misfire." His crew executed their roles perfectly. The Gettysburg shuddered, venting escape gases in a way that suggested critical damage. Behind them, the Dominion audience watched in delight as their ships pressed their advantage. Deep within the lunar command bunker, Admiral Morrison watched multiple feeds simultaneously. The battle near Mars was proceeding exactly as planned, but it was only one thread in an intricate web of deception. "Status on Operation Looking Glass?" she asked, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Colonel Way's hologram appeared beside her. "The Dominion's entertainment feed has reached peak saturation. 97% of known civilized worlds are actively watching their Conquest channel. Their livestream metrics are breaking all historical records." Morrison nodded slowly. "And our embedded content. The quantum packets are piggybacking perfectly on their broadcast signal. Every time they transmit their propaganda, they're unknowingly spreading our viral code through their own networks. When the time comes, we'll have access to every system that's been receiving their feed." On the main screen, Vix Thera was now giving an impromptu lecture on human inefficiency. The alien commander had brought in military historians from 3 different species to analyze humanity's flaws. "Note their reliance on rigid command structures," one expert observed, pointing to the apparently chaotic retreat of Earth's ships. "Their vessels can't even maneuver independently without constant direction from their commanders." Morrison's console chimed softly, another message from the Ghost Fleet, hidden in the quantum silence behind Jupiter. All ships reported optimal status. Their crews were maintaining perfect discipline, despite the temptation to power up weapons and strike at the Mockery being broadcast across the galaxy. "Admiral," Colonel Way's voice was thoughtful, "the Dominion's viewing numbers are still climbing. We're reaching species we didn't even know existed. When this is over," Morrison finished, "every spacefaring race in the galaxy will have watched their own propaganda channel broadcast their defeat. The greatest military instruction video of all time, courtesy of their own arrogance." Near Saturn, Vix Thera was practically glowing with satisfaction as they recorded their next segment. "We've now eliminated 30% of humanity's space-based assets, with 0 casualties on our side. Their attempts at resistance are. They paused for dramatic effect, admirably futile. The camera drone zoomed in on their face as they continued. In fact, I'm prepared to make this even more interesting. I hereby announce a galaxy-wide contest. Submit your predictions for how quickly Earth will fall. The winner will receive a genuine piece of captured human technology, quaint artifacts that will soon be valuable collector's items. Admiral Morrison watched the broadcast with cold amusement. Behind her, on a secure quantum channel, reports continued to flow in from Earth's true fleet. Every ship was in position. Every crew was ready. Every piece of real human military technology was primed and waiting. "Let them run their contests," she murmured. "Let them make their predictions." Sun Tzu had another relevant quote: "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." And right now, they're defeating themselves more thoroughly than we ever could. The Eternal Victory's hull blazed with ceremonial lights, its massive form now decorated with holographic displays visible from Earth's surface. Supreme Commander Vix Thera had ordered their entire fleet to activate similar displays, creating a stunning celestial spectacle that outshone the stars themselves. "Let them see their future," Vix Thera declared to their rapt galactic audience. "Let them witness true civilization in all its glory." Their entertainment channel's viewer count had reached unprecedented levels, with even the most ancient species tuning in to watch what they believed would be humanity's final hours. The commander's personal quarters had been transformed into a lavish broadcast studio. Rare artifacts from conquered worlds lined the walls, and a newly installed museum section stood ready to receive the first human relics. Vix Thera had even commissioned a real-time holographic model of their planned victory monument, a towering structure that would replace Earth's moon as the planet's most visible satellite. "The human leadership continues to send us desperate communications," they announced, their scales shifting through patterns of smug satisfaction. "They speak of peace talks, of cultural exchange, of mutual understanding. Such charming naivety. Would you negotiate with insects about the reconstruction of their hive?" In the heart of Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Morrison watched the broadcast with her senior staff. The massive underground chamber hummed with quantum processors, each one tracking the positions of Earth's hidden fleet elements. "They've taken the bait completely," General Santos observed, his weathered face illuminated by holographic displays. "Their fleet formation is exactly where we predicted their pride would place them." Morrison nodded, her fingers tracing the complex pattern of hidden human ships on her tactical display. "Position updates from the Ghost Fleet. All units report ready, Admiral. The quantum fields are holding perfectly. Their sensors still can't detect anything beyond our decoy forces. Captain Rodriguez's defeated task force has retreated exactly as planned, leaving their flank seemingly exposed." The Admiral's eyes narrowed as she studied Vix Thera's latest broadcast. The alien commander was now conducting a live auction, selling naming rights for Earth's future provinces to wealthy bidders across the galaxy. "Their final push begins in 6 hours, Morrison said quietly. "They want to time their victory announcement for peak galactic viewership." She opened a secure quantum channel to all hidden fleet elements. "All commanders, initiate Operation Hydra countdown. Synchronize your chronometers to my mark." Across the solar system, hidden in the shadows of planets and asteroids, humanity's true military power stirred to life. Quantum cores began their silent power-up sequences. Crews ran final checks on weapons that would redefine warfare in the galaxy. Each ship maintained its perfect quantum silence, invisible to even the Dominion's most advanced sensors. On the Eternal Victories broadcast, Vix Thera had begun their victory speech early. "Let history record that on this day, humanity learns its proper place in the cosmic hierarchy. Our anthropologists have already begun cataloging their cultures for preservation in our museums. Their children will thank us for this gift of civilization." The alien commander paused, their primary eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "In fact, let me share with you the first images of the re-education centers we've designed. Our architects have outdone themselves, creating facilities that will help humans understand their new role in the galaxy. Behind them, holographic displays showed massive structures that looked more like palaces than schools. "We are not cruel," Vix Thera continued. "We will make their transition to proper civilization as comfortable as possible. After all, they cannot help their primitive nature." Admiral Morrison's quantum pad chimed softly, a message from the Ghost Fleet's furthest elements, hidden in the Kuiper Belt. Everything was in position. Every trap was set. Every weapon was primed. She thought of humanity's long history, of countless battles and endless innovations born from conflict. The Dominion had studied Earth's wars but learned exactly the wrong lessons. They saw the violence and chaos, missing entirely the incredible adaptability and strategic depth that each conflict had forged. "Send the final code phrase to all ships," she commanded. "Operation Hydra activates in 5 hours, 53 minutes. Let's show them what humanity's primitive nature can really do." The message pulsed out through quantum channels, completely invisible to Dominion sensors. "Remember Pearl Harbor. Remember the Alamo. Today, we add another story to tell our children." Above Earth, Vix Thera continued their victory celebration, utterly unaware that they were broadcasting their own eulogy to the entire galaxy. Vix Thera's victory speech reached its crescendo as their fleet moved into its final attack formation. The Dominion warships formed a perfect geometric pattern, their ceremonial lights painting constellations of conquest across Earth's sky. Billions of viewers across the galaxy watched in anticipation of humanity's surrender. And now, the Supreme Commander declared, their feeding tentacles writhing with pleasure, "We will demonstrate true military precision to these primitive." The word died in their throat. On every sensor display, impossible readings exploded into existence. Space itself seemed to blur and twist as hundreds of ships materialized from nothing, emerging from the quantum silence like ghosts becoming solid. "Status report," Vix Thera screamed, their scales flickering in patterns of shock and fear. "Where did they?" "Multiple contacts, Supreme Commander." The sensor officer's bioluminescence pulsed with panic. "They're everywhere. Behind us, above, below, by the void. They're inside our formation." Admiral Morrison's voice cut through every Dominion communication channel, her tone carrying the weight of centuries of human military tradition. "This is Admiral Catherine Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. Your sensors are working perfectly. What you're seeing is humanity's Ghost Fleet, developed in secret while we fed you exactly what you wanted to see." On the bridge of the Gettysburg, now shed of its fake exterior panels and burning bright with quantum drive emissions, Captain Rodriguez allowed himself a fierce grin. "All ships, execute attack pattern Cana. Just like we practiced." The human fleet moved with devastating precision. Ships that had stayed hidden for months now demonstrated maneuvers that the Dominion had believed physically impossible. Quantum drives bent space itself, allowing Earth's vessels to move in ways that violated everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare. "Impossible." Vix Thera's voice cracked as they watched their perfect formation become a perfect trap. Their technology. They were primitive. "We saw their ships, their weapons." "You saw what we wanted you to see," Morrison's voice replied calmly. The human ships executed a complex series of synchronized maneuvers, each one based on battle plans refined through thousands of years of Earth's military history. While you were broadcasting our weaknesses to the galaxy, we were watching, learning, and preparing. The Dominion fleet's rigid formation, designed to showcase their superiority, now became their greatest vulnerability. Human ships struck from 12 vectors simultaneously, their weapons finally revealed in their true form. Quantum lances carved through alien shields that had never been designed to stop such advanced technology. Gravitic torpedoes created localized singularities that twisted Dominion vessels into abstract sculptures of broken metal. "Your entertainment channel has record viewership, Supreme Commander," Morrison continued, her words broadcast across the same network that had carried Vix Thera's boasts. "The galaxy is indeed watching. but they're not seeing what you promised them. The Gettysburg led a squadron through a series of moves that would have made ancient Roman generals proud. The double envelopment, perfected by Hannibal at Cannae and practiced countless times in quantum simulations, now played out in 3 dimensions. Dominion ships found themselves surrounded on all sides, their escape routes cut off by precise human positioning. This is what humanity's primitive history has taught us, Morrison declared as her fleet tightened the noose. Every war, every battle, every conflict added to our understanding. We didn't just study strategy. We lived it, breathed it, evolved through it. Vix Thera watched in horror as their fleet, which had begun the day preparing to accept Earth's surrender, now broke apart under the hammer blows of human attacks. Ships they had dismissed as primitive now revealed themselves as quantum-age predators, their true forms emerging from carefully crafted disguises. The galaxy will remember this day. Morrison's voice carried no mockery, only the cold certainty of absolute victory. Not as the day humanity was conquered, but as the day the galaxy learned why you should never mistake preparation for weakness. The eternal victory's ceremonial lights flickered and died as human weapons found their mark. The great ship's hull, so recently adorned with victory decorations, now bore the scars of real combat. And still, across every frequency, their own entertainment channel broadcast their humiliation to the watching galaxy. The eternal victory shuddered as another quantum lance pierced its shields. In their command center, Supreme Commander Vix Thera frantically accessed Earth's military archives, finally seeing them with clear eyes. What they had dismissed as primitive chaos now revealed itself as something far more terrifying. A laboratory of combat evolution. Multiple breaches in sectors 7 through 12. The damage control officer's bioluminescent patches flashed warning patterns. They're not just attacking our weaknesses, they're creating new ones. On their screens, human ships executed maneuvers that seemed to mock physical law. A squadron led by the Gettysburg split into 3 elements, performing an adapted version of an ancient cavalry flanking maneuver. The Dominion's tactical computers struggled to track the quantum-shifted vectors, their programming unable to cope with strategies evolved from centuries of terrestrial warfare. How? Vix Thera whispered, watching their fleet disintegrate. How did we miss this? Admiral Morrison's voice cut through their internal calm again, as if answering their question. Your first mistake was thinking that war was simply about technology. Your second was believing that our conflicts made us weak. The tactical display showed human ships implementing strategies that spanned Earth's military history. A group of destroyers executed space-adapted Mongol horse archer tactics, striking from multiple angles before seeming to vanish into quantum shadows. Capital ships moved in formations that echoed Roman legions, creating overlapping fields of fire that left nowhere for Dominion vessels to hide. Each war taught us something new. Morrison continued, her words broadcast across the same entertainment channel that had carried Vix Thera's boasts. The Peloponnesian War showed us naval tactics. Genghis Khan taught us mobility and deception. Napoleon demonstrated the power of concentrated force. We took every lesson, every innovation, every hard-won insight, and we prepared for this moment. In the debris field that had once been the Dominion's front line, Captain Rodriguez's Gettysburg led a strike group through a series of maneuvers based on Apache warfare techniques. Their quantum drives allowed them to appear and disappear like raiders emerging from mountain passes, each strike precisely calculated to create maximum chaos in the alien formation. Fascinating adaptation of historical doctrine, General Santos commented, watching the battle unfold from Cheyenne Mountain. Rodriguez is combining classical Greek phalanx formations with modern quantum physics. Morrison nodded, her eyes tracking multiple tactical displays. Every commander in the fleet specialized in different historical eras. We've got Vietnam-inspired guerrilla tactics in the asteroid fields, World War I, submarine warfare adapted for quantum space, desert warfare doctrine modified for solar winds. The Eternal Victory's sensors registered new alerts as Earth's ships demonstrated yet another capability. Their quantum drives could work in concert, creating overlapping fields that turned space itself into a weapon. Dominion vessels found themselves trapped in artificial gravity wells, their own momentum used against them, just as Japanese martial artists had once turned attackers' strength to their advantage. Your basic mistake. Morrison's voice carried no mockery, only the weight of historical insight, was thinking that our wars were simply destruction. Each conflict was a forge, testing ideas, discarding what failed, perfecting what worked. When we looked to the stars, we didn't just adapt our latest military doctrine. We drew from every era, every culture, every battle ever fought. Vix Thera watched in horror as their fleet tried to implement standard Dominion doctrine against an enemy that seemed to shift between centuries of tactical approaches. When they attempted to counter one strategy, the humans would switch to another, drawing from a military library that contained everything from Sun Tzu to modern special operations. We used your propaganda against you, Morrison explained as another wave of human ships emerged from quantum silence. Every broadcast showcasing our primitive technology helped hide our true capabilities. Your entertainment channel taught the galaxy to underestimate us, and now it's broadcasting the price of that mistake. The Supreme Commander's scales had lost all color as understanding finally dawned. They had studied Earth's military history as an anthropologist might study cave paintings, with amused condescension. Now they realized too late that they had been reading the most comprehensive military manual in galactic history, written in blood and victory in sacrifice, and they hadn't understood a single page. The Eternal Victory's bridge descended into chaos as emergency alerts cascaded across every display. Supreme Commander Vix Thera watched in mute horror as their own entertainment channel, still broadcasting at peak ratings across the galaxy, showed their mighty fleet being systematically dismantled. Primary weapons are non-responsive. The weapons officer's bioluminescent patches flashed distress patterns. Our targeting systems are acting independently. They're firing at empty space. Shut them down. Vix Thera commanded, their tentacles writhing in agitation. Override all systems. We can't, Supreme Commander. The security protocols, they're not just bypassed, they're completely rewritten. It's as if our own ships are turning against us. A new voice cut through their command channel. Not Admiral Morrison this time, but Captain Rodriguez from the Gettysburg. You're partially correct, Commander. Your weapons aren't malfunctioning. They're operating exactly as we programmed them to. Vix Thera's primary eyes widened in comprehension. The entertainment broadcasts carried quantum encrypted packets directly into your systems, Rodriguez confirmed. Every time you transmitted our supposed weaknesses to the galaxy, you were actually updating our control protocols in your own networks. Your entire fleet has been running our software for months. On the tactical displays, the situation grew more desperate. Human ships seemed to anticipate every Dominion maneuver, countering their tactics before they could even execute them. The proud formations that had begun the day preparing for a victory parade now broke apart under relentless, precisely calculated attacks. Impossible. Vix Thera's voice cracked with desperation. Our cyber defenses are the most sophisticated in known space. Our quantum encryptions were designed to defend against threats you understood. Admiral Morrison's voice returned, broadcasting simultaneously across all frequencies. But you never considered that a primitive species might approach cybernetic warfare differently. While you were laughing at footage of our old computer systems, we were building something new. In Cheyenne Mountain's command center, Morrison watched the battle's progress with grim satisfaction. Colonel Wei, status of the Dominion's network penetration. Complete, Admiral. Their entire command and control structure runs through our quantum algorithms now. Every transmission they send, every order they give, passes through our filters first. On the main display, the Eternal Victory attempted to launch its fighter squadrons. The launch bays opened, but the fighters remained dormant, their systems locked down by human control protocols. Throughout the Dominion fleet, sophisticated weapons either failed to fire or activated at precisely the wrong moment. You built your superiority on a foundation of assumptions. Morrison broadcast, her words carried across the same entertainment channel that had once mocked human capabilities. You assumed that because we fought among ourselves, we couldn't be unified. You assumed that because we used primitive technology, we couldn't understand your advanced systems. Fatal mistakes. Vixthera watched their own propaganda channel turn against them in real time. The camera drones they had deployed to document their victory now captured their defeat in excruciating detail. Every failed maneuver, every collapsed formation, every dying ship was broadcast live to the watching galaxy. Your ratings are higher than ever, Supreme Commander, Morrison noted with cold precision. Your audience has tripled since the battle began. Every spacefaring race is watching as humanity demonstrates why experience matters more than arrogance. The Gettysburg led another attack run, its true form finally revealed. What had appeared to be a clumsy, outdated vessel now moved with lethal grace. Its quantum drives bent space in ways the Dominion had thought impossible. Its weapons penetrated shields they had believed impregnable. Perhaps the most important lesson from human military history, Rodriguez added, his ship executing a maneuver based on ancient Greek naval tactics, is that the most dangerous enemy is the one you've taught to understand you. You spent months broadcasting our weaknesses to the galaxy. We spent those same months studying every detail of your operations, your technology, your tactics. Vixthera's scales had faded to a sickly gray as they watched their carefully staged documentary transform into something else entirely, a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating one's opponents. Their own words about humanity's primitive nature now played back in damning counterpoint to the sophisticated destruction unfolding around them. The remnants of the Dominion fleet huddled in the shadow of Earth's moon, their once proud formation reduced to a scattered handful of damaged vessels. Supreme Commander Vixthera stood motionless on their bridge, watching as their own entertainment drones circled the wreckage, broadcasting their defeat to every corner of known space. Your surrender terms are quite simple. Admiral Morrison's voice echoed through the command center. Power down your remaining weapons and prepare to receive boarding parties. In return, we guarantee the safety of your crews. Vixthera's scales rippled with bitter comprehension as they noticed something profound. The human ships had deliberately left them an escape route. Their remaining vessels could still attempt a desperate run for deep space, but the path would take them directly through the most densely populated viewing angles of their own camera drones. You want us to run, they said softly. You want the galaxy to see us flee. No, Commander. Morrison's reply carried unexpected weight. We want the galaxy to see us show mercy. Your own broadcasts have painted us as primitives driven by bloodlust and war. Now your audience will watch us demonstrate something your superior civilization seems to have forgotten. The wisdom of knowing when not to strike. On the bridge of the Gettysburg, Captain Rodriguez watched as his tactical display showed the positions of Earth's ghost fleet surrounding the Dominion remnants. Admiral, we're detecting power fluctuations in their remaining ships. They're either preparing to surrender or... A burst of quantum static cut through all channels as Vixthera made their final broadcast to the galaxy. Witness, all viewers, the truth the humans have hidden. Their savage nature, their bloodthirsty. Open historical archives, Morrison commanded, her voice overlaying the alien commander's rant. Full access, all channels. Across every frequency, across every entertainment feed that had carried Vixthera's propaganda, humanity's true military database began to unfold. Not the carefully curated footage of ancient battles that the Dominion had mocked, but the complete record, victories and defeats, triumphs and tragedies, lessons learned, and wisdom earned through millennia of conflict. Your audience deserves the complete story, Morrison continued as the data streamed out. Not just our wars, but what we learned from them. Not just our weapons, but why we created them. Not just our victories, but the price we paid for them. In Cheyenne Mountain, General Santos watched the transmission analytics with amazement. The viewing numbers are beyond anything ever recorded. Every spacefaring species is watching this moment. Morrison nodded slowly. Then let them see everything. Show them the peace treaties that followed our wars. Show them how enemies became allies. Show them how conflict taught us the true value of cooperation. The Eternal Victory sensors registered a new type of quantum field forming around them. Not a weapon, but a contained space of perfectly regulated energy. Earth's ships had created a barrier that would prevent any desperate last attacks while ensuring the safety of the Dominion crews. Your own propaganda channel asked the galaxy to watch humans learn their place. Morrison broadcasted, her words reaching every world that had tuned in to witness humanity's expected downfall. Instead, they'd watch you learn the most important lesson from Earth's military history. The strongest warrior is not the one who never falls, but the one who learns from every battle. Vixthera watched in silence as their crews began the surrender procedures. On every screen, their own entertainment drones continued their relentless documentation, but now they showed something unexpected. Human medical ships moving to assist damaged Dominion vessels, rescue crews preparing to evacuate wounded alien personnel. We studied war not because we loved it, Morrison explained, her voice carrying to every corner of known space, but because we understood its cost. Each conflict taught us something about ourselves, about our adversaries, about the price of pride and the value of wisdom. Today's battle wasn't just about defeating you, Commander. It was about showing the galaxy a better way to win. The Supreme Commander's feeding tentacles curled in resignation as they realized the full scope of their defeat. They had sought to humiliate humanity before the galaxy, but instead had become the instrument of their greatest triumph, not just in victory, but in how they chose to use it. The Great Hall of the Dominion High Council fell silent as Supreme Commander Vixthera's trial reached its final moments. The former commander's scales had lost their lustrous sheen, now a dull gray that reflected their fallen status. Above them, holographic displays showed excerpts from their own propaganda broadcasts, each clip now a testament to their catastrophic misjudgment. The evidence speaks for itself, the chief counselor announced, their ceremonial robes rippling with patterns of judicial authority. Your actions have not only led to a military disaster, but have fundamentally altered the balance of power in known space. Admiral Morrison stood at the witness podium, her dress uniform carrying medals that even the Dominion now recognized. Honors earned not just in the recent victory, but in decades of preparation for this moment. Behind her, Captain Rodriguez and other fleet commanders waited their turn to testify. If I may address the council, Morrison began, her voice carrying the same quiet authority that had announced humanity's true power weeks before. We're not here to demand reparations or enforce humiliating terms. We're here to offer something far more valuable, understanding. The chamber's quantum screens activated, displaying scenes from Earth's military archives, not just battles, but their aftermath. Peace treaties being signed, former enemies becoming allies, lessons being learned and passed down through generations. Your commander's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating our technology, Morrison continued. It was underestimating our capacity to learn from history. Every conflict in human history added to a library of experience that prepared us for moments like these. The screen showed clips from Vixthera's entertainment channel, now overlaid with analytical data revealing the multiple layers of human strategy. Each seemingly primitive display of weakness had been calculated. Each apparent failure had masked a deeper preparation. The channel you created to mock us became the greatest teaching tool in galactic history, Rodriguez added from his position in the gallery. Every species that watched our supposed weakness now has front-row seats to learn about the danger of assumptions. Vixthera spoke for the first time since the trial began. You knew from the start. Every movement, every response, every retreat, it was all planned. Not entirely, Morrison replied with unexpected gentleness. We knew someone would eventually make your mistake. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our ability to adapt. We turned your propaganda against you because that's what humans do. We take challenges and turn them into advantages. The chief counselor's bioluminescent patches pulsed with thoughtful patterns. And what do you recommend as a sentence for the Supreme Commander? Education, Morrison answered immediately. Not punishment. Commander Vixthera should be appointed to oversee the new interstellar military history academy we're establishing. Let them teach others what they've learned about the true nature of warfare and wisdom. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Vixthera's scales flickered with confusion. You would trust me with such responsibility. After everything. Your documentation of our conflict is the most comprehensive record of military hubris and its consequences ever created, Morrison explained. Your entertainment channel reached species we didn't even know existed. Now it will become a permanent reminder that true strength comes from understanding, not arrogance. The council chamber screens showed the new academy's proposed curriculum, a combination of human military history and the recent conflict, teaching lessons about strategy, adaptation, and the wisdom of respecting potential adversaries. The galaxy watched humanity demonstrate our capability for warfare, Morrison concluded. Now they'll watch us demonstrate something equally important, our capability for turning enemies into teachers, conflict into cooperation, and defeat into shared wisdom. The chief counselor rose, their robes shimmering with patterns of formal decree. Let it be recorded that on this day, the galaxy learned two vital lessons. First, that true civilization is measured not by technological advancement, but by the wisdom to use it properly. And second, that humanity's greatest weapon was never their ships or strategies, but their ability to transform struggle into strength. As the council session ended, Vixthera approached Morrison. The channel I created to showcase your weakness will now broadcast your wisdom to the galaxy. There's a human word for this kind of reversal, isn't there? Morrison smiled slightly. Several, actually. But in this case, I think irony fits best. Your next broadcast begins tomorrow, Professor. I suggest you prepare to teach the galaxy what you've learned about the true meaning of strength.